Welcome. Hi, Lene. Lene, is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, Lene, thank you.
Jennifer, Catherine. Hey, Kathy. Onuri, thanks for joining. Anna.
Hello.
Hello. We're just waiting for Shannon to join us, but thank you so much for joining into our book club discussion for our April book, which is Trust Your Truth. Whether you read it or you didn't, it's all good because it's mostly a discussion about what the book consists of, getting a little perspective from Shannon. So all great things that SOULFest wants to have the community participate and just engage with, great content and people that want to help, that want to be involved, that want to contribute to your well-being in all aspects of your life. So each month we dedicate a specific book and author and talk about a topic that is important and very relevant that we can take into our lives to improve our well-being, our lifestyle, our relationships, and ourselves, our relationship with self. This is what this one's about. So we should be able to have him join shortly. But yes, let's see what we have in the chat. Shannon, he's coming in. Hey, Shannon. Hi.
Hi there. Hello.
Hello. Happy Earth Day.
Thank you. Happy Earth Day to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we're so excited to have you join us. Really appreciate the time. And I just want to introduce you to everyone that is here. So just first off, for those that are new to SOULFest, SOULFest is really about celebrating wellness, community, and culture through yoga, through different activities with people from the community that want to participate to, again, create well-being, to spread that energy. Perhaps is not in the day-to-day discussions. So appreciate your time here and appreciate the people that join us and participate and contribute to these chats and these lifestyles that we want to align with. So here with us today is our April featured author, Shannon Algeo. Did I pronounce your name?
You did, yes.
All right, awesome. Recent author of Trust Your Truth. So congratulations for your first book. That's awesome. Kudos to you.
Here with me,
Yep.
show it off. Oh my gosh, there it is. It's everywhere.
That's awesome. And then just to give you a little background on Shannon, he is also a meditation and yoga teacher. So he's participating in sharing his practice with organizations like RED. He's been a speaker at the United Nations. They have a yearly yoga and peace summit. So that's amazing that he's been participating in this as well. And he also has an amazing podcast called Soul Feed. And I've been listening to it. You can catch it on Spotify. It's so awesome. You have very great guests. Again, very different topics. So I do recommend everybody to check it out. It's called Soul Feed, and I check it out on Spotify. So Shannon, please say hello. Let us know a little bit about yourself.
Yes, thank you so much, Ingrid. And I also want to say hi to Lara. I haven't seen you in a while, and it's so good to see you. Hi. And hello, everyone. Like, so great to be here with you. And I'm so grateful for this opportunity to be invited to have a discussion about Trust Your Truth and to do it in real time with those who are here now. And for those who might be watching the recording, hi to you too. So yeah, a little bit about myself. Well, I'm the author of Trust Your Truth. It's kind of fun to say after 3 years of working on the book. And I've been teaching yoga and meditation for the last 10 plus years. And before I taught yoga and meditation, I was a dancer for 11 years before that. And so dance really informed my relationship with yoga. And for me, yoga was like very much a homecoming to my body and my autonomy and my space, because dance had become so much about performance and looking fierce and perfect and hitting the mark and being a triple threat and auditioning. My love of dance had kind of been influenced by the perfectionism of the program I attended in college. And so yoga for me was just actually, in my experience, didn't matter how it looked or who was watching. It was just about my mat and my practice. And so now I am in school to become a psychotherapist, and I'm studying depth psychology. And one of the things that really fascinates me about psychology is somatic psychotherapy, which is really working with the body and psychotherapy and the intersection of how sensations in the body can actually help us locate sites of trauma from our past, and also sites of resilience, and help us to regulate our nervous systems and resource ourselves to have the capacity to be in our bodies and show up in our lives, and not necessarily be beholden to and constricted by what's happened to us, but to be able to create new patterns and new ways of being. So, and that's really what Trust Your Truth is about, is about exploring like, what are these areas within ourselves that need more love and compassion and attention and healing? Why have we doubted ourselves? How have we been taught to doubt ourselves and deny the truth of who we are? And what's possible when we actually step into really trusting who we are, independent from who we're told to be or how we're supposed to be or all the shoulds that come from society. And so, yeah, that for me, like, this work is really just so interconnected between like personal liberation and collective liberation, and the way that these two intersect. And, you know, as like a white, queer, cisgender male, like my positionality is also like different than others. So I also just want to name that, like, everyone comes to this space and to all spaces with our experiences, which are different, and yet self-doubt and just doubt and diminishing who we are has an impact on all of us. So I'm just excited to be here with all of you, and I hope that answers the question of kind of who I am and what I do.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. One of the things I wanted to ask you was, tell us a little bit about your baby. Like, when was the aha moment that you said, I should write a book about this? I think people need to get a little empowered, or just know that they're able to trust their truth. So how did that come about?
Yeah, well, I knew that I wanted to write a book for a long time, before I actually started writing Trust Your Truth. And for me, it was like, I've just loved writing since like middle school, like language arts. And for me, I feel like it's like I turn on the faucet and I love to express through words. So for me, I was always kind of excited about the notion of writing a book. But of course, when you write a book, it's like, well, what the hell am I going to write about? Like, there's so much to write about, and what am I going to say? And it's such a big deal to write a book. You know, it's not just like an Instagram post where you just kind of write a couple paragraphs and it's like boom, out in the world. That you spend years kind of sitting on the eggs of your baby and kind of waiting for something to hatch.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I had an experience shortly after I moved to LA, which was almost 5 years ago now, where I was in a relationship. I moved with that partner from New York to LA. And for almost a year, I felt really poignantly, and I talk about this in the book, that I felt very clearly in my body that something was off. I felt that my ex didn't want to be in a monogamous relationship. I felt in an embodied way a message that said, he's cheating on you.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a lot for me to feel in my body without any proof. I didn't have any logic. I didn't have any kind of reason, mental reason to believe that, but I had a knowing. And so what I did for a year almost was I went to him and I said, this is what I'm feeling. Is this true? And his response was often to deflect or get angry or be like, you're crazy. And I really internalized that. And I was like, what's wrong with me? And so I believed his truth, which of course was a lie, but I believed his narrative over my embodied knowing. And the more and more, hindsight's 2020, I looked back when I found out the truth. I looked back and I saw how I was just losing energy, losing power, losing connection to my sense of truth because I was believing him over myself.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget the night that he admitted the truth to me because I literally felt my body supercharging with energy. I felt so empowered that night. Of course, after that, it was kind of clean up aisle 3. But in the moment, I was like, oh my gosh, oh my God, like it felt good. I was like, I know the truth. And actually, I'll share this with everyone here. The initial title of the book in the proposal phase was Thirst for Truth. And that's something that I feel like I've pretty much always had in me. I have this desire, this thirst, like show me the truth, tell me the truth. Let's deal with it. Let's face it. Let's look at it. I can work with that, but don't bullshit me. Don't give me like the pretty sparkly answer. Like, let's really look at this. And that's what I wanted from my ex, and he couldn't give it to me. And it taught me this a huge lesson that was really like kind of the center of the inspiration of like, oh, we've got to talk about this because I'm so grateful to my ex now. And I even like 3 days after the book came out, I sent him a message. I was like, thank you. Because Shannon needed that lesson. I needed to betray myself that hard and that in that big of a way in order to realize that my body has wisdom, knowledge, answers, and experience that may never be able to be reasoned with, but are true experiences that need to be honored and acknowledged and seen and faced. And so I just realized like, whoa, like what is possible for my life if I trust my truth? And I know I'm not alone in this. I know like so many of us for various different reasons, we don't want to leave the job. We don't want to have the conversation with our dad. We don't want to leave the relationship. We don't want to cause a fuss.
Yeah.
And we diminish our power because it can be so scary to stand in the truth, especially when we don't have like logic at our side. So anyway, that was the big, huge spiritual lesson of that relationship was a lesson of a lifetime for me. And I said to myself, Shannon, you must listen to that within yourself. And if you don't listen to that, it's going to come at a big cost.
No, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. You made me think of 2 things that actually I caught in the book, which one of them was about trauma. And the other was about your gut intuition. So I want to bring trauma because you mentioned how you're the type of person that wants to talk about it, like tell me the truth, let's communicate, so forth. But then there's other people that are totally the opposite and are closed. So one of the things that you mentioned in the book was about how we all are built with templates and templates. And of course, you please speak to this, but based on society, based on how we grew up, based on our family, we are all grown with these templates of how we should be, what we should be like, what we constrict ourselves to, and how do we communicate. So I just love to hear from you about how you have worked through templates, or how do you work with someone that actually has a template that they're not aware of themselves, and how do you work through a relationship like that?
Yeah, that's such a because these templates. So I'll just like kind of name what a template is. to give it context. So a template is like, it's like a belief system. It's a way of operating. It might be a coping mechanism or a trauma response or a family trait that just is the way it is, right? It's like coded into either our DNA and or what we've learned from our family of origin and the spaces that we grew up in. And so those templates, we inherit them usually, or they're coping mechanisms that we develop in response to something that traumatic that maybe happened in our lives, or maybe you don't even identify it as trauma. It's just how we come to see our version of reality, that it is the way it is. And so usually we don't even think to question templates because they're just default patterns. And so they kind of live embedded in the unconscious. And I think what happens in my experience is when a template is causing us suffering, like a way that we're perceiving ourselves or our lives, or a habit that we have is causing us suffering, it starts to kind of come to the surface of consciousness in one way or another. It bubbles up to the surface because it wants to be dealt with. I believe that we are designed to be empowered, that we're designed to thrive, that we're designed to be the truest expression of who we are, be alive in these bodies, in this life. And so when a template is like not actually working for our soul selves, then we have to wrestle with the template. We have to reckon with it. We have to question it. We have to dig into it. We have to get curious about, where did this come from? Is this mine? Whose is this? So there's such bravery and courage in this work, because oftentimes we do identify with those certain ways of being. You could think of a template as a way of being, like I might identify with it as who I am. I might identify with it in the sense that, like, if I don't uphold this template, like, will my family love me? Will the people around me still want to spend time with me? And so that's kind of like the risk that comes up when we dare to trust our truths, when we dare to rewire and negotiate a template, is what's going to happen on the outside. And for me, I've noticed, like, that can cause a fuss. I don't want to lose someone. What if that person doesn't love me? So ultimately, I think what happens is we have to want to be ourselves more than we want others to accept us for who we are not. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. Thanks so much for sharing that. It also brought up, like, there was so many good aspects of the book, but I was going to bring up gut intuition, but now I'm going to go to boundaries, because you did mention setting boundaries is so important. And we hear it more often now, how saying no or saying what you want and communicating it is so important, because at the end of the day, we just keep on carrying all these loads of things that we can't do anymore. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the part in your book where you were mentioning within relationships themselves, whether it's work, whether it's a significant other or family. How do you take care of yourself by being honest to yourself, again, by setting boundaries with others? Because one of the things that you mentioned is being scared that someone won't accept you or would get upset at you because you're setting those boundaries. But then you ask yourself, do I really then want this person to be a part of my life? Or how do I communicate with that person? Because if they're not accepting something that I'm setting as a boundary for my health or well-being, then how do I manage that?
I wish I knew the exact author of this quote, and I think it's Prentice Hemphill. I might be butchering their last name, but the quote is, "Boundaries are the distance at which I can love myself and you at the same time." I may be paraphrasing the quote, but boundaries are the distance at which I can love both myself and you together at the same time.
Mhm.
Meaning, if I need some space so that I can love you and love me, then that's the space that's required.
Mhm.
Because if you coming into my space or forcing a conversation or making a demand forces me to quote unquote love you, take care of your needs while betraying my own, that's not a healthy relationship, right? And so boundaries are in the book. I quote my friend Mark Groves, who says walls keep everybody out, boundaries show people where the door is. So walls keep everybody out, boundaries show people where the door is. Well, the thing about that analogy is the door moves and the walls move. This is, I think, the power of meditation and presence and our attention is each moment requires an evaluation. Like, what do I need right now in order to be my true self, in order to thrive, in order to be in a healthy space within myself, which is therefore going to influence being in a healthy space with others. So I just want to name that because sometimes we think of like boundaries as they can kind of occur to us as like fixed or rigid, but they're movable. But I think the point is that you get to move them.
Mhm.
Like we get to decide what the boundary is, and we also get to communicate it. And I know for me, I was so shocked when my sister started setting boundaries because I learned boundaries by through my sister, because she'd set a boundary and I'd be like, what are you doing? What is this? She was changing the relationship rules.
Hmm.
Like, screw you. What are you doing? This isn't how we play.
Yeah.
But then I was like, oh, wait. If you get to take care of yourself, that means I could take care of myself. I never thought about that. I never realized I could take care of myself. That's why I was so offended by her boundaries. I was like, who do you think you are taking care of yourself? I never get to do that. I was jealous. I was jealous. And so then instead of being jealous, I transmuted that into, oh, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna like take care of myself in relationships. So it's interesting to watch our responses to boundaries because often they communicate to us where we are on the boundaries awakening, and without any judgment. So again, if it's Prentice's quote, it's boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and myself at the same time.
Mhm.
And it's you. I mean, you said it, Ingrid, which I mentioned in the book, is like if our fear is that like if I set this boundary, I might lose the relationship. This person might walk out on me. And I think the inquiry is like, well, if this person doesn't want me to thrive in this relationship, then like what is this relationship?
Mhm.
And so we have to hope that like people get there and that they want us to thrive and they want to like love us with us. But if they need to walk out the door, then like that must be where they're at on their path, you know? And so I think the message here in Trust Your Truth and in all boundaries work is like, if I sell out on my thriving for your benefit,
Mhm.
that's unsustainable. That's harmful. That's violent. If I'm betraying myself to relationship that we're in, and I don't think either of us want that. And so boundaries are just saying like, hey, like I want to be healthy and I want you to be healthy. And can we talk about this? Because what's required today for us to achieve that is going to be different than maybe yesterday or the day before. And I think like for those of us who have meditation practices and yoga practices, okay, like my downward dog might feel different today than it did a couple weeks ago. Or if I have some kind of injury, my pigeon might be different or my breath might be different. So boundaries is like, it's a practice just like that requires like what's up today. And then the relational piece is just so big because it's like on my yoga mat, I can navigate my needs.
Mhm.
Maybe a yoga teacher comes over and tries to push me into a deeper assist. And I have to say,
I'm not ready for that Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. Thank you for sharing. Something that I really, and please, I'll leave it open. I'm like taking advantage. I'm like, I have so many questions.
I love your questions.
Something that I really enjoyed about the book that I didn't expect was the journey that you took me through with the chakras. So I wasn't aware that that I was gonna discover my truth journey through the chakras, meaning I never thought about it that way. So for when you start with your chakras, you start at the base, and each chakra has a purpose of keeping you balanced and healthy, and you did an awesome job of connecting it to how that applies to your life. So I'll just take one example with um, the Anahata chakra, which is leading with your heart. You gave a great analogy, and I love analogies, and it was quite funny. It was about how your heart there. So we make decisions with our heart, our head, our brain, but sometimes our gut. So really, we make decisions based on those three: heart, gut, and mind. And you mentioned that the heart is like the driver, like if it's on the driver's seat, and then you have your brain on the passenger side, and your brain is freaking out because your heart is driving, and your heart can go anywhere, right? So I really like pictured the whole animation situation. got a kick out of that. But what that was trying to say is, how do you find a good balance between making decisions with your heart, your gut, and your mind? And that's in anything, again, career, relationships, in making a decision on everyday stuff. And I'd love to actually hear from you on how do you deal with those emotions, which is another great call out you mentioned. Emotion is feelings in motion, and that too shall pass. So yeah.
Ah,
Leading with heart.
yeah, so um, that we're just so conditioned to lead with the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so we favor the mind. And in my experience, I mean, don't get, I'm not like a mind hater. Like, I wouldn't be on a Zoom without the mind, like wouldn't have written the book without the mind. So like, and so I just wanted to explore, like, what if the heart is on the passenger side of the brain, the mind is on the passenger side of your best friend's ride, and your best friend is your heart.
Mm-hmm.
I had to quote the No Scrubs song in the book. Felt really excited about that. There's like some like quirky quotes and funny references in the book, and I was like, I wonder if my publisher is going to say anything about this. And I was like, no. Okay, cool. So yeah, like it's kind of radical, I think, to be like, okay, like the mind can be here, the mind can be in the passenger seat, the mind can be on the journey, the mind can contribute to the conversation and say, hey, I think you should go this way, or like, want some French fries? Like, I got you a Diet Coke. I don't know why I said Diet Coke, but like a ginger kombucha. Um, and so, and no judgment to Diet Coke if anyone's drinking Diet Coke right now. So what is it like to actually let the heart lead? And that's vulnerability, right? It's also valuing our emotions and saying, wait, like these emotions matter. In a society that has told me to be happy all the time, to present joy, to not display any anger, to not display sadness or grief, but like, get my shit together, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, produce, contribute, all of these things. It's like, wait a second, like, where is that getting us? Where is that getting me? And where is that getting us? And in my experience, and I've literally done this, and I've seen so many people do this, you can reason your way into a place that is so far from your truth. The mind can really get you far off track when it's constantly leading.
Yeah, it could drive
Yeah, and the heart gets us into a deeper space of connection to embodied wisdom. And it doesn't mean that we're just like kind of be like, oh, I feel sadness and like So I'm going to turn this way. Or, oh, I feel joy. I'm going to turn this way, into the car analogy. It doesn't mean that we're like being reckless. It's just meaning like what is it like to let the heart drive? What does the heart actually want? What is the and where will that take us? And so, there's a yoga nidra practice that I learned from my yoga nidra teacher, Tracy Stanley, who I know many of us know. She's the author of Radiant Rests, which came out the week after Trust Your Truth. So Tracy and I had like book babies together, and I talk about her in the book. But there's a cave of the heart meditation where you actually like release the body into the ground. It's like yoga nidra, shavasana, on your back, corpse pose, and you actually like go into the cave of the heart. And in the heart, there's an altar, and you either sit or lie down before the altar, and there's a candle, an eternal flame that rests on the altar, and you just feel into and experience what else is there on the altar and what's in the cavern, the sacred sanctuary of your heart. And emotions guide us to what's happening in the heart. And when we allow ourselves to feel the fullness of our emotions, not necessarily act on every feeling, but feel every feeling. Our feelings need to be felt. And if we repress them and suppress them, they're just going to build up. So if we can actually build the capacity to feel and honor the wisdom and take action when that feels appropriate, and consult the mind can contribute. But I think it's like, when I make decisions from my heart, there's a slowdown that happens. There's more breath, thinking of the lungs as surrounding the heart. The breath connects us to the heart, literally. And there's deeper wisdom in my decision making. And what's exciting to me about it is when I make decisions from my gut, my body, and my heart, I don't have to know whether it's a right or wrong or strategic decision. I don't care sometimes. Sometimes I care.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm like, you know what? I'm going to lead with what feels right in my body, and I'm going to see where that takes me. And the more you do that and see how great that feels and the lessons that come with that, I think it's like we build a musculature around actually recognizing that, oh, I can let the heart lead. And the mind can contribute to that conversation too, but it's not driving.
I love that. The contribution of the mind versus leading with the mind. And you also quoted Steve Jobs in that chapter as well, because he was also the fact that he led with his heart. And you never know where your heart is going to take you. But once you're there, because you were led from your heart, you can always look back to see the steps that took you there, but you can't plan that in the future. I thought that was so interesting. So so it goes back to actually having the courage to just listen to your heart and go through that journey. So
I love that quote. And actually, you just saying that reminded me of something that I'm learning in school, like from a depth psychological perspective, rooted in Carl Jung. The reason, the case for letting the heart lead is that the mind actually can't know everything. The mind has a limited capacity of sight, and the heart is connected to the unconscious. The body is connected to the all-knowing, the infinite nature. And so that, you won't be able to connect the dots looking forward, but you'll always be able to connect the dots looking back. Is trusting psyche, is trusting the unconscious, is trusting the divine design of our paths, and recognizing that sometimes we kind of get ourselves into a tailspin when we have to have it all figured out, and then we move forward, and then we take action, and then we sort of make these like calculated, perfectionistic choices instead of being like, oh, whatever, let's like just let's get it, let's lean in, let's see what happens, like, let's get into the flow, let's see what feels good. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay if we make a mess. And guess what? We'll get somewhere.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Okay, I have one more. Please interrupt me, someone, if you have a dying question. If not, I have one more, because I really did appreciate the chakras. And the other one that I want to call out, and I'm not going to go through each one of them because there's plenty of analogies and great content in the book. But one of them is the throat chakra. So I never thought it, like, you brought up stuff that I'm like, hey, I never thought about it like that. But the throat chakra is where the power of communication lies. And it's so interesting because you said that the throat chakra is your connection from your heart, that is below it, and then your mind. So it's kind of like what you feel and what you think and your expression out to the universe of it. And I was like, wow, that's so great to communicate it like that. And then you brought up a whole section about words and how words are so powerful. And, sometimes I'll have a bad day at work and I'll just like talk blah about stuff, right? But I'm putting it out in the universe of how I'm not feeling too good about something I did or something I heard or something that didn't happen. And I'm just manifesting that to continue versus actually going towards a positive route and affirming things to bring those thoughts back in. So I just wanted to touch that topic and have you share a little bit about how words are so powerful.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me and reflecting back that the mind and the heart meet in the throat, and the mind creates the words, the language, and the heart creates the vibration. The vibration comes from the lungs. And so there's like this meeting, this like force field of vibration that then gets put out into the world and is felt as energy. Like, people can feel your vibe, not only through your voice, but definitely through the voice. The voice communicates regardless of language. The voice, the tone, the vibration is felt by us and those around us. And so what you were just talking about words, I learned from my friend and teacher, Sean Korn, and who learned this from her teacher, who's the late Mona Miller. And Mona Miller is the author of a book called Invisible Warfare. And she taught Sean this concept of thus far, no further. And I'll explain what that means in a moment, but I really wanted to talk about this in the book because I wanted to say that your words matter, and choose words that empower you and are in alignment with what you actually want and who you really are. But I didn't want to spiritually bypass that sometimes we need to vent. Sometimes we need to talk shit. Sometimes we need to like get it out and name toxic patterns, toxic systems, oppressive systems. So Mona's concept of thus far, no further, for me, allowed me in this chapter to speak to that you get to decide when you've crossed the threshold of like venting and you're ready to use your words to create a new narrative and create a new path forward. So like, for example, someone does something to me, I need to talk about it. Like if I go right to, it's fine, I love myself, slap me in the face, like that's like too quick of a,
Yeah.
For me, that would probably be too quick. I'd probably need to talk to my therapist about it. I'd probably get on the phone with my sister. I might need to journal about it. I might need to go on a spin of just like a ventilating, right? And of course, choosing the right containers for people who can hold space for the ventilation is key. But if I'm like, and every timeline for everyone is different, so there's no right or wrong timeline. But for me, if I'm a week later and I'm still saying the same thing, then the concept of thus far, no further is a boundary that we can set with ourselves that says like, okay, I don't want to harp on this anymore because this is actually now causing me more suffering. And I'm ready to pivot. I'm ready to shift into what is the story that I want to tell. So for example, with my breakup, a lot of ventilation had to happen. Like, get cheated on for a year, you're gonna have to vent a couple times. And so, but eventually I got to a place where I felt genuine gratitude for that experience because my soul, like the deepest parts of Shannon, needed to reckon with that lesson so I could really trust myself and write this book. Mm-hmm. And really know what it feels like to betray myself and therefore trust myself. I get that I needed that experience in order to really trust myself in a really deep way, not in like a bumper sticker, like trust your truth, but like in a, oh shit, like trust your truth. You better trust your truth. And so there was a moment, or maybe probably many moments where I was like, okay, like enough is enough on being angry now. Mm-hmm. It's okay if I get angry again. Like it's not like a complete stop, but like I'm ready to not condone what happened or glorify it or glamorize it or put it sparkly glitter over it, but see that it actually, as my friend Sa would say, Sa Di Simone, is a blessing in drag. It's a blessing in drag. And so, and that's the power of our words, right? Is like, I didn't want to go on a book tour and just be talking shit about my ex. I wanted to speak to like the nuance, the complexity that like, yeah, that hurt and I loved him and I'm grateful for it and it was screwed up. Like all of those things can be true. And that's what it means to be human. Mm-hmm. And so my hope is that by like speaking to that, it might remind us all in some capacity.
That's beautiful. Yes. Thank you. And I also wanted to add, words meant your vocal words, but also your journaling, your writing. Like that was another thing that you brought up. Vent it out on paper, vent it out in some way that you can release that energy. So thank you, Shannon. All right, I want to leave it open for others. Are there any questions, any particular topics about trusting your truth that you would like to share?
Just want to say hi to everyone, like Lene and Annette, Catherine, obviously Ingrid and Lara and Lisa, Onuri, or Anuri, Lorena, Cynthia, Lynette, Anna, Jennifer, and all of the names of the people who are watching. Is it, do you want to do like popcorn questions? Like just anyone can jump in?
Yeah, or you can, like, if you're shy, feel free to drop a comment on the chat. Any like question would be great. In the meantime, I'll continue my questioning.
Yeah, I don't have a comment, but I just want to say, Shannon, thank you so much. This was really wonderful. Your words are so powerful, and I can tell that, you know, you have really taken this journey, right, that started with so much hurt and have like kind of maybe come through that healing, and just to see you where you are today, and, you know, congratulations on your book. Like what an amazing accomplishment. But just want to say thank you. You said so much today that again, there's really not much in question, but there's just so much reflection, right? And so much like, there were like, you've provided so much aha moments, like wow, you know, so interesting. So, you know, Ingrid, you're doing a great job facilitating. So thank you for your questions, because they're truly, they help really kind of get to the heart of a lot of things. So thank you. Just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. I feel so much joy hearing that. So thank you for sharing. I really, really appreciate that.
Thanks, Kathy.
So I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity through journaling. And I love to journal, have been keeping a journal since I was probably like 12 years old. So I kind of go back and forth and look at the crap from over the years and laugh and cry and realize those things. But I think writing is such a beautiful thing, even if we're the only people that ever see it, and recognize how cathartic it is, even for the most mundane of experiences. But I appreciate all of the questions. And even some of them, I was kind of like, I really don't want to think about this right now, Shannon, but thank you. So I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciated the opportunity to kind of stop.
Thank you so much for that. Is it Lene? Lene. Thank you so much, Lene. Powerful questions and like open-ended questions are so rich and also sometimes confrontational. Like okay, like, but and so yeah, I love your reflection about journaling. I feel like journaling is, like you said, even if no one reads it, except for you, like that's a big one, like just to acknowledge oneself. A lot of times there's like so much swimming in my mind, and just to like write down even sometimes like 4 sentences, I'm like, I feel like a softening of just self-acknowledgement. And then for the questions that don't feel appropriate for you to answer as you're going through the book, like I talk about in the introduction, like then don't answer them now, ever, or yet. Like, and sometimes it's enough just to read the question and feel the moment of like, nah, and just kind of be with that. So yeah, that was my hope, is just like you could engage with the book with based on your own truth.
We have 2 questions. One of them is, in finding your truth and transforming your life, did you lose any friends or family associated to your journey?
I don't think so. You know, transformation happens, and loss, like not tangibly, like not that I can think of. Like if anything, it's made my relationships closer, especially to my family. But things have changed. And I think when things change, there's grief. Even if sometimes we grieve letting go of a toxic pattern because it was kind of normal. Maybe even it felt kind of safe in some way. Reminds me of like the baby, that the baby who gets separated from the abusive mother, like longs still for that mother. And so I know that's just kind of like an intense example to answer this question, but it's like, I think that I have noticed transformation, and in choosing what in my truth has been what's healing for myself and those around me. Sometimes that transformation is letting go of something that maybe I was attached to in a strange way that I didn't even realize. And it makes me think of like the soil in volcanic regions is so rich, and the fruit that's born from the ash of volcanic soil is real good. And so there's transformation that happens, and in my experience, there's just so much more new life that's regenerated. There's so much gained and rebirthed that I don't see it as losing anyone. But yeah, there are some people who, there's people who I can think of, more so friends than family, who, as I've stepped into my power, they've stepped away, and that's been sad. But I just kind of trust everyone's where they need to be as we all move forward.
Thank you. Lorena, do you have a comment, a question? I think I accidentally muted you.
No, that was really good information. I was just wondering, because I'm going through a similar transformation, and I find that as I'm changing, I'm losing friends, and my family is kind of adjusting And it's kind of harder for them than it is for me, but I'm living my truth. So that's a good thing for me. So your words are very inspiring. Thank you. Especially the rebirth is real. I love it.
That's so interesting because as you just said that, I turned to the window and the word real, that my eyes were laid on the word real on a sign in the window that I didn't even realize was there. Like right as you said, the rebirth is real. I saw the word real. Yeah, thank you for speaking that into the space, and thank you for living your truth and doing that despite how others are adjusting. Is, you know, when you go like this, like when you shimmy and shake, when you start, you know, like people are gonna have a reaction. It's not just gonna like happen in a vacuum, and I think that's okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have we have a question, hands up. Yes, Unuri.
Hello, I'm Honori. Shannon, I've been following you on Instagram and your journey. I'm only 17 years old, and like I've been growing up as a gay boy in a community that wasn't always supportive of who I was. And so I was forced to sort of mature at a very early age. And diving into spiritual texts and that sort of thing is where I found solace with myself and a deeper connection with myself. And like when I hear you speak, in you in so many ways. And I just wanted to say that, yeah, I admire you and I appreciate what you do.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So did I interrupt you? Were you done speaking?
No, that's all.
Thank you. I mean, first of all, you sound like incredibly eloquent and just like, I can tell you're doing the work in a way that I don't think I could speak that way when I was 17. And so, and I really resonate with what you're saying around, you know, in my experience, which I'm sure is different, but perhaps also similar to yours, having my sexuality thrown in my face, being bullied for it, and yeah, and having to really work with that that messaging that I received from society and teachers and fellow classmates. And so it's really big work to stand in your truth when others might have you not. And yet I think like for those who are marginalized in society, sometimes like you don't have a choice but to stand in who you are despite society's expectations and norms. And so thank you for being courageous, and thank you for being here. And I feel honored and grateful that you hear something in me that connects with your path. And I'm just grateful to be in this space with you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cody. We have one more question from the chat, which is, can you talk more about how to know when you got to the thus far no more point that you mentioned earlier? Sometimes I get stuck in the negative and venting spiral that I don't know how to get myself out of it. It's a difficult balance. I hear you.
Yeah. I bet about a bunch of us can relate to that. I mean, one of the things that comes to mind is I just love to pour compassion on all of the hard stuff. So in other words, if I'm being hard on myself, or if I'm not showing up in the way that I think I'm capable of, like kind of bullying myself or pushing myself or being aggressive with myself to be better, is sometimes like just as harmful as the negativity itself. So it's like, how can I just like bring compassion in to the part of me that feels stuck or attached to the negative story? Like, is like, we have negativity bias, meaning the human mind does favor negativity to some degree, and that's a survival mechanism. So understanding that like the brain might work to identify the problem so that we don't get ourselves into a hairy situation where our lives are threatened or you know, something happens that we don't want to happen. That's kind of what's happening on a mental level with the negativity bias, is like the beep, 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 like kind of like looking for the problem. So knowing that, I have a lot of compassion when I'm feeling negative, because I'm like, okay, I might be, and this is a question that I have, I'm wondering right now, like, how does my sympathetic nervous system fight or flight response contribute to my experience of being attached to the negative story? And in other words, how might yoga or yoga nidra or meditation or a sound bath or whatever you can do to downregulate your nervous system, binaural beats, to move into the parasympathetic state and to have a different nervous system response of rest and digest. I'm curious right now, I don't know the answer to this like empirically, but like to what degree might that allow us to soften that negative story or that negative experience, because it might be connected to the chemicals of fight or flight, adrenaline and cortisol, kind of like on edge. So tons of compassion. And the thus far no further is really like you're making me realize this. Thus far no further, it means that we have a choice in the matter, right? And so if we don't feel like we have a choice in the matter, then that might be something to work with. Like, why do I feel confined by this negativity? But if I'm able to say, okay, Shannon, take a deep breath, go for a walk, leave your phone at home, just be in nature with movement and breath and people watching, listen to a nice song, make a gratitude list. Okay, can I get 3 things out of me that are going well right now? Thank you for my breath. Thank you for this ground beneath me. Thank you for the eye contact with that stranger, those beautiful eyes I just saw. So we can kind of move ourselves towards a different state. And you know, I say this in the book, like in this work, a little bit goes a long way. So even if you can just give yourself an ounce of movement in the direction of what we're calling positivity or parasympathetic nervous system softening, that can make a huge difference in your capacity to do that again and again and again, right? We're building a habit here. We're not doing like a one-time positivity journal and then like back to the negativity. So I hope that's helpful. And if you have any other question about that, feel free to follow up and ask. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Anna. She said, thank you so much. That definitely landed.
Thank you, Anna.
Well, we have 1 more minute for any other questions that are out there or comments before we wrap it up. Awesome.
I have another question. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
So Shannon, I know you're doing, you said you were doing a psychotherapy course. I'm also like a dancer as well. And I could relate to how you were saying it sort of gets a bit like mundane following, not being able to have that deeper connection with self. And I'm looking in the future to definitely do work in spirituality that is meaningful to myself and others. So what sort of work do you do currently, or are you planning to do that will make an impact on others, or that does make an impact on others?
Yeah, I love that question. I'm studying counseling psychology and depth psychology at Pacifica Graduate Institute. So that's where I'm studying for my master's degree. And I'm really fascinated by the work of somatic psychotherapy, which is psychotherapy of the body, that incorporates the body, that works with the felt sense of the experience, so that we're not just in our heads figuring out all of our problems and talking about our problems, as powerful as that can be, but we're also working with our bodies. And so for me, holding the space of working with people in a psychotherapeutic context is what I believe. I believe, and I think it's clear, that we are in a mental health crisis on our planet. And there's a huge gap in access to mental health care, but also willingness and readiness. And so I have been deeply transformed by my work in psychotherapy in ways that, like, the healing relationship with working with a therapist on the regular and going deep into my psyche to unpack and unravel a lifetime of trauma and intergenerational trauma as well, has liberated me so much that I basically couldn't not move into a space of offering that space for others who are willing to do the work. So I just believe so wholeheartedly. Of course, you have to have like a good therapist, and there's research that shows that the therapy relationship is like the most healing factor of the success of therapy. It's like one of the most significant determining factors of the effectiveness of psychotherapy is that relationship, is that therapeutic alliance. And I believe, I'll just finish with this, we can only do so much work within ourselves. Healing happens in relationship. And I feel so strongly that if we're going to heal so much of what's happening in society, we need to heal with each other. And so there's something that happens in a therapy room. There's something that happens in a room that we're in together like this right now, where we share our healing. And so it's my hope that my radical hope is that anyone who's willing to do the work gets access to therapy, because I think we could see huge, huge changes in our world.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anori. Am I saying your name right? Anori?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, cool.
Thanks, Anori. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, everyone, for participating and joining us. It is an intimate group, and we all appreciate your presence here. Shannon, thank you so much. Your book is amazing. So thank you for bringing this into Floration. I'm going to definitely use it as a best practice. All of you, if you have any questions, please feel free to DM us or send us a message at SOULFest. And we hope to see you very soon, and wish you much success in everything you do, Shannon.
Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you for your amazing questions, and everyone who shared, and even those who didn't share. Thank you for your presence and for reading the book. Like, what a gift to work intimately on this for so long and then see it reflected back in your own experience. Is just like an unimaginable gift that is very imaginable right now, because this just happened. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so grateful for everyone here, and also chose the book for the book club and for your work. So thank you, SOULFest. And also, if anyone hasn't done it already, if you go to trustyourtruthbook.com, there's meditations that go with each chapter and each chakra, which are free. So you can also get those there. Thank you.
It's amazing. If you have the book and you want to hold it up, we'll do like a quick little screenshot. Give me 1 second to organize myself.
As if you're all together.
Yeah. Yay! Thank you. And all the links are in the chat. We'll also have a recording of this for everyone. Shannon, thank you so much. You're one of the SOULFest originals.
Ooh, yeah.
Cool to have you back. And I think just one more thing is we just want to announce our next book. Our next book, our May book, is going to be New Order. A little bit different, a decluttering handbook for creative folks and everyone else by my dear friend Faye Wolf, who's also out there in California. Shannon, you should look her up. You guys, I don't know, there might be some synergies there. She's super cool.
Faye Wolf, so exciting.
Yeah, and just thank you so much. Thank you, Ingrid, for leading such a really, really great talk. I learned a lot. I loved the book, Shannon. And thanks everyone for being part of our community.
Thank you so much, Lara.
Have a great night.
And
Mwah.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
bye all.